Today, we are going to master Scrivener's Inspector so we can unlock the full potential of our writing studio. So let's dive right in here. Let's do it. Let's find out what's going to happen. So I know we do have a few people who are new here who don't know who I am. My name is Oliver Evanson, and I am the outreach specialist for Literature Latte. I'm a writer, an editor, a Scrivener, and writing mentor, largely thanks to this amazing software. And for the better part of 15 years, I've used Scrivener to improve my own writing and editing skills, and I'm eager to teach you these skills in my position as the outreach specialist here. So now, I absolutely love connecting with other like-minded writers. So if you'd like to connect with me, please send me an email. I love to get emails from you guys. I do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. I can't always get to them, but I do my best. So send those to me. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Or better yet, you can actually join my email list I frequently send out valuable tips and techniques to help you become a better writer and Scrivener user, and all subscribers will receive a free copy of my free starter novel template. So if that interests you, please do that. You can stay on top of what's going on. Okay, well, now that we've gotten better acquainted, let's spend a few minutes outlining the schedule for today's session. So to begin, I'll provide a short introduction to our topic and what you should expect to learn today. Then we'll move on to our training. We'll cover the 5 tabs of the inspector, what they are and how to master them, or maybe if they're even for you. You may decide that, hey, I don't need that tool, and that's perfectly okay. And to wrap it up, I'll provide you all with a wealth of free resources you can utilize to deepen your understanding of Scrivener and improve your writing skills. And I'll also leave ample time at the end for our Q&A, where I'll do my best to answer as many questions as possible. Okay. So let's dive right in here. Let's talk about, what I promised to teach you today. And there's nothing I hate more than waiting around 45 minutes for the presenter to get to his training, if they get to it at all. So that's why I always like to establish these clear expectations for what I promise to teach in each session. So in this webinar, you can expect to learn 5 skills today, okay? Ideally, you should learn these 5 skills. I promise to teach you how to use document notes to keep track of document-specific notes and research. So you need to understand what document-specific means and how that applies to your notes in Scrivener. 2, how to add an internal or external bookmark so you can always have the right information when you need it, okay? So how to get those added, how to use them. We're also going to look at how to set those up as document-specific as well as project-based. So you can determine if you just want that available in a single document or if you want it available anywhere you're in the project, right? 3rd skill we're going to learn is how to use the 4 custom metadata fields so you can get started tracking key information across your project. Now, we're not going to go super deep into this. I've covered that in depth in a lot of other, like how to use those tools, like as a writer, right? In depth in previous sessions. So we're going to go do more of a general overview of what they are, how they work, how to set them up, okay? 4, how to take a snapshot in the inspector, okay? So you can track versions of your chapters and scenes or notes, okay? And so this is a great one. This is once again, a very document-specific tool, okay, where you're keeping track of versions of your chapter, a scene, a notes, or whatever it is you're working on that's text-based, okay? And last but not least, how to add or remove comments or footnotes so you can easily collaborate with others and keep track of key information, okay? And by the conclusion of this presentation, you should leave confident to use the inspector to take your writing studio to the next level. And I really believe in that. These are 5. I mean, there's so much to these tools that we could even still go into, but these are hopefully the 5 main things, the 5 main skills you should take away today. So let's dive right in. Let's do this, okay? Now, first off, let's talk about the inspector and what it is. So the inspector is a tool located on the right panel in Scrivener, which lets you examine the currently selected folder or binder, or document in the binder. Now, through the inspector, you can create and review document notes, bookmarks, snapshots, metadata, comments, footnotes, and more. And you'll notice that 2 tools in the inspector are consistently available on every tab, and that is the labels and the status. Okay, and you can assign labels and status regardless of which tab you have selected. So the inspector provides an excellent way to assign labels and status to any file selected in the binder. It's just a quick access tool, always going to be there. Okay. Now each tool has has numerous excellent use cases. For example, the Notes tab allow you to jot down quick notes for specific scenes and sections of your project. The Snapshots tab enables you to capture and review different versions of your chapters and scenes. The Metadata tab lets you add keywords, review general information, or create custom metadata to track things like due dates, characters, settings, plot points, and basically anything else you can think of to track. Okay? Finally, it's worth noting that when you select 2 or more documents, the inspector may only display the Bookmarks tab. So just be aware of that. So if you're going through Scrivener, like, why don't I see all the tabs Oliver has? It's because you may have 2 or more documents selected, in which case that Bookmarks tab will just show up as it's the sole tab relevant for inspecting multiple documents simultaneously. Okay, so just watch out for that. But in most cases, you have a document, folder selected, it's going to show all 5 of those tabs there. But you may see on occasion some of them disappear depending on the type of document or research file you may have selected. Now let's explore how leveraging the inspector can elevate our writing studio to the next level. So first off, we're going to start with the first tab, the most basic one of all, Synopsis and Notes. Okay, you might also call this the index card in Notes. So you could call it whatever you want. Call it. But basically that first tab has our index card or our synopsis there at the top, our notes, and then of course we still have our labels and status there at the bottom. So in Scrivener, each binder item has its own dedicated scratch pad for jotting down notes. Now you have 2 types of notes at your disposal. You have the synopsis or that index card, right? And document notes. The synopsis functions like an index card visible on the corkboard and is ideal for outlining your project. You could also add an image to the synopsis, which can be toggled on or off, and we'll look at that. And below the synopsis, document notes serve as a scratch pad specifically for that document. I want to get really nitty-gritty about that. It's not notes that are available everywhere in the project. It's only available for that specific document. You might say, Oliver, why are you saying that so much? Why is that so important? Well, it really is important because when I open a different document, for one, those notes are going to be there. So if you don't know where you stuck those notes, right? if you're expecting it to see it everywhere, it's not going to be everywhere. That ideally, you should have notes specific to the chapter or scene or section that you're working on, right? That's what that notepad is used for. So if I have specific notes for scene 1, chapter 1, scene 1, right? That's where those should go. That way, I can easily just jump right in and know where I'm at. Okay. Well, let's go ahead. Let's stop sharing here for a second. So we're going to open up Scrivener here. This is my webinar notes, so I'm going to quickly close those out. Come back to that. And let's go ahead. Let's just go ahead and create a new starter novel template here. Now I'm going to save it. This is a good thing to note too, as we talk about that question, saving things later on. We are going to save this in a central folder where we can find it. Now you can see typically I save mine in Dropbox, Apps, Scrivener. That's where my main ones go, main projects I'm working on go, because I want to have access to these projects on other devices. Okay, but I'm going to switch it over for our purposes today. It's also perfectly valid to save it in Documents, Scrivener projects, so long as it's a place where you can easily find it, and especially if you're only using one device, this is perfectly reasonable. Okay, we'll go ahead and click. Let's give it a name. We'll call this our starter novel, and click Enter. Once again, it doesn't matter what name you give it, so long as it's something you can easily find. The more specific and the more it tells you about what you're doing, the better, right? But it doesn't have to be the final title. Okay, so we've got that opened up, and just move this over here real quick. Let's look now at the inspector. So where is the inspector? It's right over here, that right panel I was talking about right there. And you can see already I have a document selected, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs there. If I had a couple different documents selected, you can see it just toggles that off. It becomes just project bookmarks, and that's it. Okay, so just be aware of that. That's what happens there. And certain research files may also have different things. I don't think I have a good example here. Let's see. Maybe like there. Okay, yeah. See, like an image will only have the synopsis notes, bookmarks, and a general metadata. It doesn't have the last 2 because it's not text-based, okay? But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's look and see what we can do here just by having this guy selected. So first off, our synopsis and notes, okay? So synopsis, like we said, that's our index card. It lives in the corkboard. If I were to go to the corkboard view, if this was in a folder, you could see that would be the corkboard. That would be the index card right there. So if I typed in here and said, hey, add synopsis or summary to index card, You can see there, it shows up right there in my corkboard as well. But it also lives right here. So if I'm not in my corkboard view, I still have access to that index card for viewing and using, okay? Now, of course, not just there, I also can toggle this over to show an image. Now, this is totally optional. If you find this useful, great. I find this particularly useful if I'm using it for a character sheet or something like that, and I have a picture of a character, whether that was AI generated or just something I found online, or maybe I had a friend or an artist actually draw a mock-up or something for me for that character. I can easily drag and drop that image in there. So let's go ahead and do that real quick just so you can see it. We'll pull out our... what do you call it? My demo files here. Let's get some images, and let's just drag and drop this guy right there in there, and boom, there we go. It's good to go. And we can easily toggle that on or off like so. And if I was in the corkboard view right here, I could also toggle that on or off like this as well, right here from the inspector. Okay, so that's handy. You can have it available so you can just see images. You can have it available so you can see just the synopsis. Totally up to you. And if you want to clear that image, you can right click it, clear image, and that will go away. You can also see you can adjust how it looks here too as well if it's not showing up properly. Okay, so that's our synopsis section of our notes and synopsis, our index card here. Our second option right here is what our scratchpad or our notes, our document specific notes. And I love this because I can come in here and add specific notes to this specific document. Okay, in this case, I'm adding it to, looks like, yeah, book 1 here. So let's open it up. I'm actually going to open up and go to Act 1. We're going to go to chapter template here. We'll just call this chapter 1 for our sake, and this will be scene 1. Now, obviously, you want to give really good specific names here, but just for our purposes, hopefully, you can kind of see how this will work. So we're going to go to scene 1. So all the notes I put in scene 1 that are relevant to scene 1 should go here, okay? If it has to do with scene 2, it should be in scene 2, right? So ideally, you know, anything I want to remember. So this is how I do it. I'm writing my scene, and then something happens. You know, usually one of my kids comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dad, can you help me with this or can you help me with that?" Or, you know, work ends, you know, and I have to rush off and start doing, you know, family stuff or whatever it may be, whatever interruption happens to me. What I'll do is I'll stop writing what I'm doing. I'll say, "Hey, give me 1 minute. Let me finish this up. I'll come over here. I'll write down some notes about what I was working on." And boom, next time I come back to work on this scene, I've got something ready to roll. And this is obviously could be useful for any medium you're writing on, anything you're working on, anything where you need to remember exactly what you were working on for a scene, a chapter, a poem, or, an academic paper, whatever section, however you've broken it up, you can easily come back to that section where you left off and get to work on it. And the best part is, when you close out Scrivener, right? Let's say, for example, when I open it up again, oops, I clicked the wrong one. Yep, no, I got it. It opens up right where I left off, okay? And you can see it here. I was in scene 1. I can kind of okay, I was working on scene 1. What was I working on? I can go through my notes, and I can kind of remind myself. It's also a great place to put a little to-do list, right? Things that you want to work on in this chapter, okay? To me, this is such a simple but powerful tool because I can break things up. I can, kind of think about, hey, well, how does this need to work? And that's kind of, if you recall the other day, what I did in my own novel here is I actually wrote down, things that I wanted to work on for this specific chapter here in the prologue, right? I'm like, okay, I want to hook the reader. I want to hint at possible murder suspects. I want to set up Ned's characters through the eyes of his peers, etc., all the way down here. And this is from additional notes that I got from my collaborator where we're like, okay, these are some things that are missing. We need to add a little bit more of Darnell's description. And see, this became, even though we were just talking on the phone and reading it together, I was able to collaborate with her and just kind of keep her notes there inside my notes tab and then come back and fix that later, right? I don't know. I love it. So that is our notes section here. Let's merge these together real quick. And that's how I would use it. So hopefully you can see that. We switch to a new scene, different notes, nothing is there. We switch back to it. There's our notes that are specific to that scene. That's everywhere in your project. All these things, they're all going to have every folder, every document is going to have its own notes section, okay? Even your templates. If you have specific notes, maybe I want to come in here to my chapter template here and go to the scene template and say add scene specific notes here. I could. I mean, I don't need to because I already know how I'm going to use it, but you know, that might be useful for someone. Or you could come here and when I go ahead and add it, right click, add new from template. There we go. There it is. You can see switch back and forth. There it is. Add scene specific notes here, and there they are. I could call this scene 3, like so. So wherever they're always going to be there. That's a great tool to use. Highly recommend it. Okay, let's see. Okay, before we jump onto our next one, I'm also going to use this time to just demonstrate labels and status from the inspector here. Because as you can see, it doesn't matter which one I switch to, the labels and status here at the bottom remain the same. They're not going anywhere. They're going to stay right there available to you, okay? So the nice thing about that, if I want to assign a label or status to a specific document or scene I'm working on, maybe I need to change it or adjust it. Really easy to do. I just come here and say, okay, maybe it was red. I'm going to now switch it quickly to green. And I'm also going to say, hey, this is what's to do. Now it's in progress, right? And that way I can easily keep track of status. I can easily keep track of whatever label I'm working on. You can see in the past, I have used labels to keep track of point of view characters, and I have used status to keep track of my progress in the story. In fact, I've gone from no status to scrap, to do, in progress, written, draft 4, and now I'm on to draft 5, and done. So hopefully that's where you can kind of adjust those or be whatever you need to. And if you want to change anything there, you want to change what the labels are, where the colors are, you can come down and click edit. That'll allow you to adjust that right there. Same thing with our status. We click edit. We can make adjustments to our status here to whatever we want it to be. Okay, so there we go. And I think you'll find that you'll find a groove for you that kind of works best for you. Just mess around with it. Have some fun with it. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, well, that is our Synopsis and Notes tab. I think we're going to go ahead and move back into our presentation for a second. So the next tab in the inspector is our Bookmarks tab, okay? And the bookmarks serve as a convenient place to store links, and are very similar to their function in a web browser if you're familiar with bookmarking a website, for example, right? Now, from this tab, you can save project or document-specific links. Again, there's that word again, document-specific. I guess 2 words, right? Document-specific links, okay? That's a key concept here in Scrivener, where some things are available in the entire project, and some things are specific to a document, okay? Now, these bookmarks can be either external, in other words, they're not saved directly in your project, or they can be internal, or in other words, they are saved in your project, and they can be organized into 2 categories. We have project bookmarks, which are accessible anywhere within the project, and once again, document bookmarks that are available only in the document that is open and active in the editor where the bookmark was created, okay? So let's switch back. Let's see it in action. Okay, let me see if I can actually just switch over here. So one, boom, boom. Okay, let's look at document bookmarks. Now, I'll admit, document bookmarks is not a tool that I have used as much as I would like to. Okay, I think it is an excellent tool. I just find myself searching more than actually like assigning documents, but it is a very powerful tool, and I do want to show you guys how to use it. It's something I'd like to use more. It's on my to use tools, I guess you could say. But it's one of the tools where I feel like I could benefit from it, but I'm not really needing it right now. And so personally, I don't use it as often, and that's okay. It's kind of one of those examples, hopefully, where you see, hey, this is a great tool, but maybe it's not for me, at least not right now. I haven't found a good use for it in a project I'm working on. But either way, you can see in the starter novel template, and to be fair, also in the regular novel and novel with parts template, you're going to see a few things that are kind of already assigned to the project bookmarks section. And once again, I'll remind you, doesn't matter which scene or area of my project I select, the project bookmarks are available everywhere. Okay, so ideally you should be bookmarking things that you just want to have convenient access to all the time. And I would discourage you from making this a very long list of things. You can see right now I only have 3 things there. You should really try to narrow this as much as possible. You don't want to have to be like searching through your entire binder like you would, in your document bookmarks. Otherwise, you might as well just go to your binder, right? Just very carefully choose which specific things you want to have access to. And you can see we have our characters already set up. We have our project notes and our settings there. Okay, there's nothing inside those, which is why we're not seeing much of anything. Let's go ahead and create a couple things. Yes. Really? Oh, bummer. Thank you. I don't know why that didn't share over. Okay, now can you see it? Perfect. Sorry, guys. Yeah, sometimes that happens. But okay, hopefully you can see this now. We can see right here, we have our project bookmarks. And these, like I said, are available everywhere. Okay, it doesn't matter where I go, it's gonna stay the same. Okay, and once again, we want to make sure that we're not overloading this with a ton of different things. Okay, so if we just dropped our entire binder in there, that would not be as useful, right? We really want to have access to very specific things. Okay, now we can actually remove or delete a selected bookmark by right-clicking it and click delete. That'll get rid of it. I really don't need to have quick access to my templates directly. But then again, maybe I'm in a mode where I'm adjusting and changing templates on the fly, right? So maybe it might be useful to have that available to me all the time. It just really depends on what's going to work best for you. But the main thing here is when I add in a document here or something, let's just add in note 1, right? It may be useful to have my project notes available to me. So you see when I add that in, I'll have access to notes 1 right there. Basically everything in that folder I can get quick access to. And usually what it'll do is it'll preview it down here. Let's add something in here. Add text here. There we go. You can see. And so I can navigate to note 1 there. It'll have that note in the bookmark previewer right down here. And I can make that bigger or smaller. So I could be anywhere else in my project, right? And open that up. I still have access to that project note right there. Okay, so it is a handy tool to have around. One of those things, like I said, you don't want to put too much in there. Just the things probably the things you find yourself frequently. I need to look at that. I need to look at that. Right. So it may take a little bit of trial and error to figure out what those things are. But I would just discourage you from adding in things just like crazy, just like dropping things in there. Only add the things that are really important to you. Now, how do we add it? That's a good question. Hopefully you kind of saw me do it already, but really anything we want to add, we can just drop it in there. You can see in this case, I had the folder, right? But I could actually just drop the note itself directly into my project bookmarks, okay? And so maybe this was like outline for the novel, right? This could be the outline for the novel. Maybe I just want to always have that quick access to that outline so I can easily and quickly refer to it here. Outline, and you can see I can actually edit it directly in the bookmark preview. I can select it anywhere else in the project. So maybe I'm working on chapter 1 here, scene 1, and I can look at the outline as I'm working on my novel, right? Now, this outline is going to be kind of a more linear view versus like saying, hey, I have my outline directly in my inspector. But hey, however you want to do it, perfectly fine. You can do that kind of linear outline, or you can have the outline directly in your index card here as that synopsis, right? So whatever works for you. Hopefully you can see what you can do there. Okay, let's take that back. Looking good. If I had more characters here, that would be a good example too. Let's just throw a couple character sketches in here so we can kind of see what that would look like. There we go. And I can't remember if you guys actually saw me delete the bookmark or not. So if I wanted to delete a bookmark, it's really easy to do. I can right-click it. I can delete that selected bookmark. I can even rename it. I can reveal it in the binder. I can open it in the current editor. I can open it in the other editor. So there's a lot of fun things I can do here as well. And I can even open it, if you recall me talking on, is it Monday? Yeah, Monday about the quick reference window. I can even select any one of these and push the space bar, and that'll open it up in a quick reference window as well, if you're a big fan of that tool like I am. Super handy. If I want to move that onto a different screen, I certainly can, and or even just throw it behind. So when I need it, it's right there for me, okay? So a couple different ways you can kind of view those documents, right? We can do it directly in the bookmark viewer right here, or we can do it in that quick reference window, or even in one of the editors, right? By right-clicking and opening it in other editor. It'll even split the editor for you, so you have that right open there for you. You can close your inspector and get back to work, okay? So a lot of fun things we can do with the bookmark tab, but that's our project bookmarks, okay? That's how we use them. We can access them anywhere in the project. Well, now let's move on. Let's talk about document bookmarks, okay? So document bookmarks are a little different, right, in that they are specific to that document, okay? And once again, we want to be thinking, what are specific things I need access to in this chapter, in this scene, in this note, and only in this note and nowhere else. I don't need access to it everywhere. So a good use case might be when I'm working on a specific scene, maybe I'm working on a supporting or a smaller side character. Let's just do this. We'll do this as hero. Oops, if I could spell it. Hero. We'll call this side character minor character, just to kind of give us something to look at. And we'll call this, what do you call it? We'll just do character. I couldn't think of another one. And so let's just go ahead and move this in. If I were actually to go to scene 1 here, right? I'm gonna lock this guy in place. Right click, lock in place so he doesn't move. And I wanted to assign a specific document or external files. First up, I'm gonna look at here, make sure I do have scene 1 selected, right? I'm gonna say, okay, the hero's in this scene. This side character is in this scene, and this minor character is also in this scene. And so I'm going to be looking specifically, if I have multiple point of views, I'm going to put the character sheet for the point of view character that I want to refer to, right? If I were working, let's take a non-novel example. If I was working on an academic paper, right, and I had some research that was specific to the section I'm working on, I'm going to want to drag the research probably into the document bookmark here so I can have quick access to that section that has that research, the specific research I need to have access to, so I can read my research and quickly find it, get access to it without having to search through my binder or even do a search. It's just right there available to me. Now, this does take some intention, right? We do have to kind of think ahead a little bit and say, okay, I'm working on this chapter, I'm working on this scene. What are the documents that I'm referring to frequently when I'm using this? And that's when we're like, okay, let me add this and add that to my document bookmarks. Now, once again, if I switch from scene 1 to scene 2, watch what happens. Oops. We click scene 2. There we go. Actually, I have to have it selected, right? There's no document bookmark there, right? Because it is specific to scene 1. So let's make this one editor. So scene 1 has my document bookmarks. Scene 2 has no document bookmarks. Scene 3 has no document bookmarks, okay? So that's how that would work. And it's worth noting, too, that this may be a tool that you might not utilize initially when you're first writing a rough draft. I certainly didn't. If you go to my Autumn the Amulet here, you'll notice that a lot of my bookmarks, let's project bookmarks, let's go to document bookmarks, they're going to be empty. I don't have a lot going on here. But now as I'm going through a revision, okay, there's a document bookmark there, I can actually go and say, okay, maybe I want to have access to certain characters and certain things, certain settings and certain notes, right? And I can bring those in and look at those and have those there. It looks like I do have a couple in here for some of these, but I could do that. And it may be a more useful tool for me as I'm revising more, and rather than when I'm actually writing the novel. And so it's going to be kind of a, a toss-up. You're going to have to decide when you want to use this tool, if you want to use this tool, and just make that decision as you go. And it may make more sense at different stages of the writing process, right? Okay. So looking good. One thing we haven't covered is actually how to add an external bookmark. So let's see if we can do that real quick. Usually, let's delete that one. Let's do this. Let me see if I can actually pull it directly from the binder. I think I can just drag and drop it in. Let's grab an image. I'm just going to drag and drop it like that. Yes. Okay. So you can see it has a little arrow next to it, and that's because it's like a shortcut to the file that's already saved on my computer. So let's say you didn't want to bring it in directly to your computer. You could easily drop it like that. If we edited this, oops, sorry, wrong button. Let's delete that. That one too. If we edited this, it should show a file path. So edit bookmark, there we go. Yep, there's the file path. So if you know how to get access to this file path on the Windows Explorer, on your binder, then you could actually just type this in. Although I much prefer the drag and drop method, just way easier than having to find that stuff. You can even rename it if you want to. You don't have to have that PNG there. Just have near it like that or near it like that, okay? And there we go. We have that document bookmark from the outside. And you may notice as well, when I add an external bookmark, there's a URL. That's what it's looking for. It's looking for a link back to somewhere. So I could easily also put an actual website here as well. So if I went to, let's just say, let me see if I can actually just type one in, literatureandlatte.com, right? And I just call this literature. And I'm not sure this will work typing it in. Usually it's better if you actually grab it from the web. You might need the HTTPS :/ thing too. Well, let's see if we can just type it in. I'm curious. I want to do webinar library, and I have to do that at a /library in here like that, and let's see if it works. Okay, boom. Okay, nope, it didn't work. Yep, couldn't be open. So what I'll have to do, since that didn't work, right, I'll actually want to go to Safari, or Chrome or whichever one you're working on. Literature Latte / library here, like so. And I can actually add that as a bookmark here. This time we're going to edit this again. Okay. We're going to paste it in like so. And hopefully that should do it. Aha, there we go. Yep, it looks like if I typed in this side too, but I think it's just going to be easier just to copy and paste that from your browser. You can see it changed to a web page there, right? You can see it's like this little globe here. We can actually load the web page right here in the bookmark viewer here, and I can actually have access to those all right here. Woohoo! I can click that one right there. It'll open up in the browser, and I can get access to that. So maybe also if I wanted a specific link, I could also grab one of these guys here and get specific access to that specific one. But up to you. That's a handy dandy tool. It would be probably more useful, something like this, right, in my project bookmarks than in my document bookmarks. But to be aware, you can actually add a URL, something, an actual website, and load that website directly in the bookmark viewer right here at the bottom. Okay, and it's also worth noting that if I want to delete something, I can also do it here in the toolbar here, just by selecting that button and clicking the minus button there and delete that. And that's true for both of those. And I can also access that contextual menu right here. Internal bookmarks, you can see I can navigate anywhere in my project here as well and add anything that's already in the project. Okay. Boom. Excellent. A lot of fun stuff. You kind of mess around with it in there. Well, that's bookmarks in a nutshell. So let's go ahead and jump into our metadata, and then we'll look at our last couple. We're about halfway through the presentation. I'm going to switch back to this, and we will get rolling here. Okay. Let's talk metadata. Now, the metadata tab is one of the things when I first started using Scrivener, I really, really struggled with this the most. I could not wrap my head around it initially. It just didn't make sense to me. And I think part of it is because it just seems so complicated that I didn't want to take the time to learn it either. But ironically, it's become one of my most favorite features. And anyone who's been to any of my events knows that I kind of talk up metadata a lot because it's just a really robust, versatile, flexible, powerful tool. So let's talk about it. Metadata is simply data that provides information about other data. So essentially, everything that the inspector does involves metadata in one form or another. For example, the synopsis, the document title, and even the document notes are just pieces of data that describe the document or folder that's open in the binder, right? So hopefully I've kind of simplified it enough for you guys. I know it can kind of be tricky to wrap your head around this one, but I think we got it. In the metadata tab, we have access to general data available for every document. This includes the creation date, the last modification date. We can also go a step further by adding our own custom metadata, right, that we talked about, providing even more relevant information to our project's documents and folders. And now, as highlighted in the presentation, there are 4 types of custom metadata available for us to use. We have our text boxes, we have our checkboxes, we have our lists, and we have our dates. Okay, but that's not all. The metadata tab has another really powerful tool, metadata tool, and that's keywords. And keywords function very similarly to what you might see referred to as tags in some other programs. And they are a way of adding short bits of information to a particular item so that it can be cross-referenced with other items that have those keywords assigned. And this is particularly useful for finding intersections and keyword assignments. Now, I personally love using keywords to track plot structure for scenes, especially if that scene contains multiple Save the Cat beats. Those of you who know me, I love Save the Cat. And so sometimes one scene doesn't fit into just one beat. Sometimes it has a couple different beats in it going on. And so I like to be able the flexibility keywords offer to assign multiple beats to one scene. And they also for tracking a number of supporting and side characters that appear in a chapter, scene, or beat. So I can keep track of the small characters, from my major characters all the way down to my little characters, my minor characters, by just assigning a keyword for that character to that scene. And I can kind of see, hey, where does this character show up? Does he show up just once? That's great. It's just a minor character. That's fine. If he shows up multiple times, this is kind of a reoccurring side or supporting character, depending on what role. It helps me kind of see where they're going, what they're doing. Okay, well, let's go ahead and see this guy in action. I'm going to make sure I switch over to the right screen first, and then we will switch over here. Okay, there we go. Now, yep, looks like you guys can see my screen. Let me know if you can't. I see there's tons of chat stuff in there. I'm sorry I haven't had the chat pulled up I'll try to pull it up here in a second. Let me see if I can kind of have it here off to the side here. And let's roll with our metadata tab. So once again, we were on our second tab. This is our first, second, third is our metadata tab right there in our inspector. Okay. Okay. Scrolling down. Okay. Let's look at general metadata here. Okay. So first off, general, right? You can see here, it's right here at the top. In fact, I can close it or open it. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see if we kind of close all these up a little bit. Unfortunately, you can only, one of them has to stay open, and otherwise it'll open the other one. So general metadata, that's the general information about every document. So this was created today, May 29, 2024 at 11:23 a.m. and it was last modified at 11:39 a.m. And of course, if I change it again, that's going to update. It takes just a second, so watch that. It'll change here in just a minute. There it goes, 11:44 a.m. Woohoo! See, make the change. Okay. We also have the option to remove this from compile or not. Note, this is really more relevant if it's in the actual manuscript or series folder here. Okay. If you're outside, it's not going to really do anything because it's not going to be included unless it's actually in this folder. But if it's in the series or manuscript folder, this is where you want to uncheck that. So it's not going to be compiled or exported out, okay? We can even change our section type, whether it's a part, a chapter, a scene, etc., all the way down there to all those different section types, okay? If you're not familiar with that, that's okay. That's something we kind of more cover when we're in our compiler or when we're compiling things. We're not going to worry about that too much, okay? But that's our general metadata there, and that's how we access it. So that's available for every document, every scene, in our entire binder here. That's where it's relevant to. Okay. Then we come down to our custom metadata. Okay. You can see if I open that up, it's going to give me an option to set up custom metadata. Now, this is where I got confused when I first started doing this. I'm like, set up custom metadata. I mean, I had to set something up. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, how to set it up, when it works. And you get to this menu, you're like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. And to be fair, if this is new to you, that's totally okay. This is one of those tools that once you get it, you either love it or you don't. And so hopefully after today, you'll love it. So let's say you don't have any custom metadata. How do I set this up? Let's talk about it. Let's set it up right now. Click that button there, and it's gonna take us to our project settings. Okay, that's where we're at. Project settings right here. It's gonna take us down to the custom metadata tab here. And this is where we create that metadata. Let's go ahead and do it. We're going to create one of each. So this is a text box. Okay. And then we're going to do a next one. We're going to do a checkbox. Oops, I changed that to a checkbox. Don't do that. Make sure you add a new one before you change it. Okay, checkbox. And then I come down and change that to a checkbox. Okay. Then I'm going to add another one. We're going to call this one, what was it? A list. Okay. I used to be a huge fan of the list. I use it less now because you can only assign one thing per thing, but it's still a very good one. It's a good one to use. Let's go here and let's add a date as well. And we'll change that to a date. Okay, you can see every time I change it, the options for that metadata will change a little bit, okay? And before I do anything with this, let's go ahead and click OK and kind of see what happens, okay? Click OK. Boom, there we go. Now we have our general metadata, we have our custom metadata, and a text box is just like it sounds, a text box where I can add text that is specific to the scene, chapter, or note that I'm working on, right? Okay. And so if I switch over to scene 2, right, it's also going to have a text box, a checkbox, a list, and a date, but once again, document specific. It's specific to the document in question. Now a checkbox, similarly, if I check the box, right, it's checked. If I switch over here, box is not checked, right? List, same thing. This list has nothing in it, so we have to come back in here, actually add some list items. Let's change that to a list. There we go. And we'll go ahead and add in item 1, item 2, and we'll do item 3. Item 3, right? And you can have the list be as long as you want it to be. Click OK. Now you can see that turned into a drop-down menu. I can now assign it an item 1, item 2, item 3. And this is very similar to our labels, except for it doesn't have a color attached to it, or our status list. It's most similar to our status list. So if we decided we wanted to use our status list for something else, we could actually move the status list here. We could say, hey, this is the status list. Okay, we'll do that real quick so you can kind of see that status list. We could do in progress. What do you call it? First draft. We're going to keep this real simple, and we're going to call this done. Okay, and boom, that switches over, and that's what it becomes, right? We can use it just like that. Okay, and I think we're also going to come in here and add in no status like that for the none item. If you come here, no status. So by default, it's going to be no status unless you assign it, right? Looks good. And last but not least, we have a date where we can literally assign an actual date on our calendar, right? And set it there and be done, right? Now, there's a lot of customizing and things we can do to this to make this a really useful tool. As it stands, me just creating a text box, checkbox, and a status list and a date, not terribly useful because I didn't assign any specific name to say, hey, what is this really being used for? So let's take just a quick peek. We're not going to spend too much time on it, on how we might make this a little bit more useful. So I might have this be, we'll just say, for a text box, we'll do characters, okay? Or maybe we'll do minor characters. Now, this is just one way you could do this, or I don't know. You could come up with anything. Let's keep it simple. Checkbox. We're going to call this done. Status list. We're going to actually change this to something else. We're going to do this as plot. Why not? And we're going to change this one to due date, like so. Okay. Now, this may not be the exact way I would do this, but it's just an example of what you could do. And when we look at minor characters, we're going to go ahead and, we're not going to use, we could use colored text. Maybe we'll just turn it on and see what it looks like. If you wrap the text, it's going to force everything to kind of stay together. I personally don't like that, especially in the outliner view. It doesn't look as nice. It kind of makes everything look thicker and bigger, and I like to keep things kind of thin and easy to read. So I'm going to leave that unwrapped. But I could also change the alignment here as well. I'm going to keep it left aligned. I think that's fine. We'll go to done. I don't want it ticked by default. I mean, if it's ticked by default, it's already going to be checked. I don't want that, but I could have that maybe if I was unchecking things, right? Instead of checking them. I like it unticked by default. So I'm going to leave that off. And okay, plot looks good. For plot, we're going to come in here. I'm just going to call this Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3. Obviously, if I was using this for plot, I would want a really excellent structure, like the Save the Cat plot structure, for example, to use this. Disadvantage of this is, once again, if you have multi-beats per scene, right, I would probably use my keywords, but maybe I might still have a list where I assign the primary beat for that scene, and I add keywords for the secondary beats that kind of occur on that aren't quite as important, but actually do take place there. Maybe the foundational beat, so to speak. Okay, and then due dates, it's going to be like that. This is a due date. I could even go so far as to add myself a time as well. Okay. Now, I've seen people use this to also track timeline. You could use this to track timeline as well. But if you didn't prefer that, if you didn't like that, right, you could even say, instead of using an actual date, let's say you're writing a fantasy novel or something that doesn't conform to the traditional time format, you can actually create your own just by using a text box, right? You could type in your own personal time into a text box, which I think is probably the best way to go about doing that, okay? You can also create your own custom date. This is not like what I was talking about where you use the text box to write down like some fictitious date. You're just using these kind of terms here, like this little code here to kind of create your own date view, okay? But we're going to stick with our traditional one, kind of a date and a time, okay? We'll click OK. And now you can start to see, okay, this is starting to look a little bit more useful. If I switch over to here, right, I can just say, hey, this one is done, right? Or it's, if it's not done, it's unchecked, right? The plot status, this is in Act 1, right? This is also in Act 1, right? I could go through that, obviously, once again, it'd be more useful if I had more things to assign to it, tell me more what's going on specifically in this scene, right? But as it stands, it's pretty simple use. Now, if I wanted to, for the chapter itself, I might even assign a specific due date for this chapter. I want to have it done by tomorrow at noon, right? There we go, right there, 12. o'clock p.m., right? So by tomorrow at noon, I should have that done. Now, it doesn't send me any alert or anything like that, but if I'm looking through my outliner view here, let's go ahead and add those in. Let's add in the due date, the plot, the done, the minor characters, right? Like that. So I can see all this metadata in my outliner here, right? And get access to that. So if I had minor characters, I might change this to John Smith, Gary Grant. I don't know. Just names that are popping into my head, etc. Like that. And you can see, once again, it is document specific, right? It's not on every single document. You could have different minor characters for each scene. You could have it whether it's done or not for each scene, right? And if we come back to the act level, maybe I finished all, right? But is chapter 1 done? Yep. Now it's done, right? I can check that it's been done after looking at chapter 1, saying, okay, yep, I did finish all those. Those are all finished. If I want the due date to show the time, right, I could do that. I can also add the time here as well. I want to have this done today by noon. And this one was supposed to be done. Maybe we'll say it was done at 11:30. Let's be a little more realistic. Let's say it should have been done at 11 a.m. And so this was not done yet. This one's done. And so I could kind of plan out my schedule and kind of see, hey, when do I need to have these finished? When can I have them done? And of course, I can always come back and change these anytime I want to, either by clicking this or actually typing inside what the new time is here. So I'm in an event right now, or I'm in a webinar, so probably not going to get that done right now. I'm going to put that for 2 o'clock instead, still today. So I can still get to that, get that done, and then when I get it done, I come into here and check the box, and boom, I know it's done, right? And some people may prefer that checkbox than saying, hey, keeping track of an actual status here, right? Or you may want to do both. It just makes, if you need, sometimes you just want to know, hey, is it done or not? And sometimes you just want to know, you also want to know where it's at. It's a revised draft and it's done, right? So once again, hopefully you're kind of seeing here how the metadata is describing what's happening to the document and how that could be a really useful tool for you. I find it incredibly useful. And once again, the beauty of the custom metadata is it's really flexible. You can kind of use it for whatever you want. To take a peek of how I've used it over here, you can see I have like a setting list. I have a date here as well. I have subplots, which I have nothing in. Due dates. I have, is it uploaded to Drive? In this case, I was sharing it with people in Google Drive who aren't using Scrivener, so I'd upload a version of that scene to Google Drive for them. I'd mark that whether I did that or not. Characters in scene, different collaborators, if you have multiple collaborators, right? Who's working on what? Outliner notes, you can see I've got a lot of fun stuff in here, and some of them I use, some of them I don't, and I would probably be worth coming in here and say, okay, I actually don't need that one anymore. Let's go ahead and just delete that guy by going in here and saying, hey, I don't use part 1 timeline or part 2 timeline. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. Click OK. We're good. Like so. And see, I was kind of using a list to keep track of the timeline as well. I don't even think I'm using that one anymore, but I certainly could. Hopefully you kind of see the options there. So a lot of fun. Now, where keywords comes into play, where it gets really useful, is that I can actually say, okay, this is specific to this document, and the keywords are also specific to a document, but I can assign multiple keywords to a specific section. So whereas I can only assign one status and one label, or in the list only one thing, if I had multiple things I needed to assign, I could do that in my keywords here. So I might come here. Let's go to Show Project Keywords here. And I can create a list of minor characters, like so. I could create a list of, heroes, a list of plot beats, right? Oops, not beast, beats, like so. And the cool thing about this, you can see there's a color assigned, so it's very similar to our labels. It's where you can only have one label per document or folder, right? But with a keyword, you can have multiple keywords in a document folder. So it kind of takes it a step further than the label, which is nice. And then we can actually come here and add these in. So we'll just do opening image. That's one plot. That's the first plot beat. And then we'll have, we'll just do act 1. And then we have our theme stated, right? And you could go and add all these in. You could even double click the color and change the color to something else, okay, if you want to. And like with our heroes, we might have John, we might have Ned. And just you can see I can nest these in here by just dragging and dropping them on here. Ned, Burke. I can do another one if I click plus. If I'm in the hierarchy, it's going to go and stay inside of it. Do Nira, We can add in Revelo here, like so. We can add in, what's it called? I'm trying to think. Ival, whatever, And so this makes sense. Like maybe I've used labels to keep track of these viewpoint characters, like Ned and Ival and Revelo, right? And Nira, right? But maybe one of these other characters also appear in one of these scenes, right? So maybe the main point of view character for this chapter here, right, is in fact, oops, I didn't make those changes. I forgot to say Nira. Let's do Ned. Sorry about that. Make sure you push OK. Otherwise, you'll just run into that problem I just ran into. Nira, Ival, Revelo. Okay, like so. Okay, so I click OK. There we go. Now it's been changed. And we say, hey, this is Ned, right? But this may be Ned's chapter, Ival the Ripper. But maybe Ned's not the only one who appears in this chapter. Maybe it's also, I also have a few other guys. So I could show my project keywords. I could actually drag and drop it into this. So Ned is clearly the main one, but maybe also Revelo appears in this chapter. He's one of the heroes. And another minor character appears here as well, Darnell, right? He appears in here as well. And so I want to make sure Darnell's on there too. And you can see I could easily track all the things where Darnell appears. I could track where Revelo appears. Even in Revelo, I can check Revelo where he's the point of view character with labels. And I can also track where he was just like a supporting character for a Ned scene, right? And that's what keywords makes possible, that kind of intersection of information and keeping track of those like little itty bitty details, so you can kind of see everywhere Revelo appears and everywhere Ned appears and everywhere where Darnell appears, just by assigning a keyword and putting it in there like that. Okay. Now there's a lot more we could go into keywords, but we're going to keep it at that. We're going to close those up. And that's kind of keywords in a nutshell. That's how we assign them. You could also assign them directly in here, like so. Boom, like that. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Keywords, there you are. And there you can see where they've been assigned. And once again, also opening images, things like that. I can assign all these things in here like that. Just a quick drag and a drop. And you'll find that quite a bit. There's a lot of dragging and dropping that makes this very easy to get things right where you need it, when you need it. Okay. Oh, and if I wanted to remove, that's one thing I forgot. If I wanted to remove, and this a keyword, we kind of talked about adding it, right? If I want to add a new one, I like doing it directly from my show project keywords, but I can add it specifically to a document by just clicking the plus button and adding a keyword, right? Now, what this will do, the disadvantage of this is you can see it just adds it to my project keywords, and it does add it to that document, which is fine. But personally, the reason why I like doing it from here is because it doesn't add it to anywhere specifically yet. And I can also take a minute and organize it where it goes. So maybe this was a minor character, Rodney, right, that I added in here. And I want to make sure that he ends up under my minor characters because he is a minor character. And I make sure I get that changed over. I think, yeah. If I switched over, it didn't change it quite quickly, but you can see it. Once I made that change, it did update that here, my keywords too. Now we can see also it updated here as well. So we can quickly add and make changes right here in the project keywords. That's my preferred place to do it, but obviously you can see you can do it from there. If I want to remove one, I select the document where I want it to remove it. Okay. It's only going to work if I have one document selected. I select that and I go ahead and click the minus sign and delete that, or I right click it. Let's see here. Nope. I can right click and show project keywords, and I can actually delete it altogether. If I remove it from the keywords list here, it does not remove it from my project keywords. If I want to remove it permanently, okay, and be warned here, if you remove this, remove it from everywhere in your project. If you remove it from here, if I delete here, it's going to delete it from everywhere because that keyword no longer exists. So be wary of deleting keywords from here. It's okay to delete them directly from the document because it won't go away permanently, but if you delete it from the project keywords, it's gone, and everywhere you assign it to, it's gone. So just be aware of that. That's one thing you don't want to do. That would be the kind of thing where I'm like, oh crap, I need to quickly go to my backup file here and restore because I don't want that change to be permanent, right? Okay, looking good. Maybe, yeah. I'm gonna hold off looking on too much. Yeah. Okay, looks like Jen is getting to most of you guys' questions, so that's great. Feel free, I'll try to address as much as I can here at the Q&A. We're getting close to wrapping up. We have 2 more tabs to cover, and then just a couple more slides after that, and we'll be on our way. So let's close that out there. Let me switch back to the presentation. Where were we? We're on snapshots now. So that concludes our metadata tab. Let's jump into snapshots here. Okay, looking good. So the snapshots tab is accessible exclusively for items with editable text. That means like if it's a document or a folder or if you can edit text in it, you can take a snapshot of it. If you can't edit text in it, you can't take a snapshot of it. Okay. Now this section of the inspector allows you to view existing snapshots, create new ones, compare different versions of a chapter or scene based on a previous snapshot. You can even roll back to an existing version of your document if you so choose to. And you can even permanently delete these snapshots if needed. And I do find myself doing that from time to time because I have it set up every time I save or back up my project, it takes a snapshot for me. I kind of use it as a backup tool. Some people use it to really keep track of solid versions of their documents. So just depends on how you want to use that. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I'll also cover the slide on comments and footnotes because it's a pretty small slide too. It's similar in the sense that the comments and footnotes tab is also exclusively available for items with editable text. Okay, and so it's only going to work. It's only going to appear on those sections. And all linked comments and footnotes assigned within the editor will be listed sequentially as they appear. So from top to bottom, the comments that are on top and the footnotes on the top are at the top of the document. The comments and footnotes at the bottom of your inspector are at the bottom of the document, right? So that's where it's that sequential form. And when multiple documents are represented, this displays a combined view of all the documents and footnotes available in the selected document. So that means if you're using Scrivening mode, like we talked about on Monday, you're going to have all those documents showing from top to bottom where they appear in the inspector for both documents or the multiple documents that you have selected. Okay. And let's talk about these last two tools. So here they are, snapshots right there. And we have comments and footnotes right there. There's no text loaded, so there's nothing to really, to do with there. So let's go ahead and select the document here. And one thing you may have noticed in most cases, these are all document specific, right? Each of these tabs. I think one exception here, right, is our project bookmarks, where that's for everywhere, right? But even it has that document specific section for document bookmarks. Okay. So we're back here to our snapshots. This is scene 1. Okay. And if I want to take a snapshot, I can just click the plus button here. I could also go to Documents, Snapshots, Take Snapshot, or Take Snapshot with a title. Now, that's my preference if you're going to use it to keep track of versions, okay? Because you click that there, or you learn that keyboard shortcut, right? Document, Snapshots, that's Control-Command-5. It's going to be different for a PC, obviously. You should have it right next to it in the menu. If you can't find it, use the search bar here and look for it, okay? And it gives us the option to actually give it a title. So we're going to call this Draft 1. Okay. Okay. And then if I came through and I made a bunch of changes, right? Move things on. When I click compare, I can see, all this text was added. And I'm actually going to delete some things like this. Maybe actually let's take another snapshot real quick. I'm going to use Command 5 this time. You can see when I do Command 5 or Control 5 on the PC, it doesn't give it a title. It does, however, mark the status in that. So I might do draft. Let's do this, draft 1.1 in progress. I don't know, something like that, right? And I could then come here and say, okay, let's compare these. These are exactly the same. Nothing is different, right? But now I'm going to go ahead and delete some stuff. Add in new text here. Okay, let's compare now. Let's see what we got. Original, compare. Okay, that shows that it was deleted. Add in new text here. Yep. If we go back here, compare again. Okay, in this case, yeah, add a new text here. Yep. Yeah. So we can kind of see what it's going to look like a little bit different. And at any point, I can actually roll back to my previous version. So let's say I want to go back to this version. It's going to ask me, do I want to take a snapshot of this version before I roll back? Now, usually I do, because you do want to keep track of your version history. Okay. So this was the original one. Rolled, didn't like, rolled back. Okay, let's go with that. And then obviously I have that there available still in my version history here. And you can obviously, the better the names you give these, the better it is. But there we go. We can compare them and kind of see what it looks like, just like that. And of course, if you want to delete something, it's like, okay, I actually don't want this at all. I can right click it. I can click delete. I can also just click the minus button right there and it'll say, hey, do you want to delete this? Are you sure you want to do this? You can even ask me not to ask again, but I'm going to keep that off because I do want to be reminded the select snapshot will be deleted. The action cannot be undone. Okay, so be aware of that before you do it. Once you do it, it's gone. Okay, can't be recovered. So I'm pretty wary of that. I typically don't delete things that can't be undone. Kind of one of my personal rules there, just in case. You never know. You never know. You might want that back. You never know. Okay, looking good. So that's snapshots in a nutshell. Once again, you can find it up here, snapshots documents. There is more to snapshots we don't have time to cover today. Maybe we'll get to it in the Q&A if someone has a question about it, but that's kind of the key points there. There are certain things, some extra things that we can do, but that's the main gist of it. Okay. Let's talk about comments and footnotes real quick. So if I come over here to the comments and footnotes, you can see there's currently nothing there. If I select it, I can add a comment. Should leave it at that. And it is sequential. If I add a footnote here, okay, add footnote here, right? And so we could, we could do that wherever we want to. Comment, footnote. If I come back up here and I add text here, and I go ahead and add a comment here, you see it's going to appear above, right? Because it's based on the order it appears inside my, my editor here, okay? As I move around. And if I click them, there are also links. So if I turned off my inspector altogether, I could click it and it'll pop it up and take me there. See, super handy. It doesn't matter where I'm at. If I click it, it's going to take me back to that section of the inspector where it appears. Ooh, good question. Will notes appear in snapshots? No, I don't believe so. Let's look at that. So that's an interesting thought. I've never even thought about that, Kathy. That's a really good point. No, I believe it's just taking snapshots of the text itself, not of your notes, okay? And where that might come more in handy, you might want to, if you're going to change your notes here, I guess you could copy them and stick them in your project notes. But let's take, for example, let's go ahead and delete these notes here just to kind of see this in action. This is scene one. I deleted the notes. I just cut them out here. And let's say I rolled back to this guy right here just so we can see this, if this is going to work. No, I don't want to take a snapshot. My notes are still gone. So, yep, it is only snapshotting the actual text in here, not your document notes. So be aware of that, okay? That was a good question, Kathy. Let's see. In terms of comments, one thing I like to mention about comments, it's nice, is that when you come to comments here, okay, and you add a comment, I guess I should have saved that because I just deleted all my comments and things. If you bring in a Word document, for example, that has a bunch of comments from a friend or an editor or whatever, those comments will come into Scrivener, and you'll be able to view them in the inspector here. That's kind of a handy feature. And if you're exporting out to share with someone, you can go to the compile menu. By default, they are removed from the compile menu, okay, from the compiler so they're not exported out. If you do want to export out your comments, you come to the settings tab here, you uncheck remove comments, and now your comments will be exported out. If at any point you want to remove them again, make sure you come back to the settings and you check that box again and click compile. That'll remove those again for you. So that's how you get them there like that. So Elizabeth is asking for snapshots. Can I make the snapshots by title the default option, or do you have to manually do it manually each time? I don't believe if you're talking about, hey, could I just set it up so it just does something by default other than untitled? I don't think there is a way to do that, although that's a great question. I'd like to explore that a little bit. Default titles for snapshot. I don't think so, but I'd love to look into that, and that might be a great feature request too if you don't have that. Default titles for snapshots. I do know, this is what I can tell you. If we go to Scrivener settings or tools options on a PC, we can go in and let's see here. For snapshots, I want to say, is it behaviors? Oh, no, it's right here in general saving, right? I can take a snapshot of changed text on manual save, right? And when I do that, let's just show you. Delete that. You see it gives it untitled save, okay? What we can kind of influence, we can't unfortunately influence the untitled option there, but depending on what we've assigned to it, a status that can be added to it, that's kind of handy. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else. Let me just look at this real quick. I'm just curious if I can find anything here that might do with that. Drag and drop, snapshots. Play the shutter sound. No. Show notification when snapshots are taken. Not quite. I don't know if we have a section for snapshots here. No, this is just how it looks color-wise. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything specifically for that. That was a really good question, though, Elizabeth. That's something that's good. Typically, what I would do if you're trying to make, keep track of versions and keep track of titles, right? I would recommend you either memorize this shortcut here. I think it's Control Command 5, and for PC, it's probably going to be something similar. Let me try it. Yeah, Control Command 5, right? And that pulls it up, so I'm automatically forced to just type in that title. That's a really handy one to just memorize if you're using snapshots a lot. And I might even, if I want to make it even easier for me, on Mac, I know there's a way to change this. I could probably switch these. I would take snapshot to Command 5 and change this to Control Command 5 and change this one to Command 5. There's an option to adjust shortcuts in your settings. I'm not going to go over it right now unless we have time, but there is a way to do that, and you could adjust that so it's an easier shortcut to remember as well if you don't happen to like that shortcut. It does take a little bit of work on your part in your macOS system preferences or on your Windows settings, but it is possible to do that. So Kathy's also asking, how do you take snapshots of all documents at once if possible? Now, one thing that should happen, okay, when I go to here, settings, right, it says here, take snapshots of changed text documents on manual save. So when I save, when I have this option checked, it should be anything I've changed in my project, and I Command S, it should automatically take a snapshot of all those documents that I have changed in my session. Okay, that should happen. Okay, I don't rely on that so much in terms of to keep track of versions. It's more, like I said, it's more of a backup feature for me. So I'm not. You can see it has untitled, so it's more just so I can look through them and see what I've done and make sure I haven't missed anything. I can track my version history through saving like that. But there's no way to do the entire project in the sense I'm going to push Command 5 and do the entire project like that. Okay. Usually what I do to keep track of an entire draft is when I'm done with the draft, I'll actually duplicate my draft folder like this, or my book folder, and I'll drop it into my scraps folder, my trash folder, and you can see here's my drafts, my series, book 1, and there's all of them. Draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And every time I do a new one, I'll duplicate this guy and drop it into my scrap folder, and then I still have access to the entirety of that version before it was changed. You can see it changed quite a bit from G2 to D3. We kind of got that structure there, and things were kind of added in. And if you dive into each of these individually, a lot actually has changed internally in those versions as well. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. That's how I handle my version history for an entire draft versus just a document by document, scene by scene version history. Okay, so that's kind of an all-over thing. That's what I've done, and it works really well for me. Okay, well, we're looking pretty good. I think we've kind of covered comments and footnotes. I've covered it a lot in the past. If there are more questions about that, we certainly can dive into that during the Q&A. But real quick, let me get you guys those free resources, tell you about what's coming up next real quick, and then we'll wrap up with our Q&A. Let me share desktop 3. Okay. And so, of course, we have a wealth of free resources for you guys. Once again, I'd like to remind you that I love connecting with fellow passionate writers, passionate about their craft. So it fuels my own inspiration and brings me a lot of joy to help you guys on your author journey or whatever, your writing journey, wherever you're working towards. I want to help you get there. Now, if you're not already a part of the Turning Writers into Authors community, please join us today by subscribing to my emails list. Like I said, all subscribers do gain exclusive access to a trove of valuable Scrivener and writing tools and trainings. Plus, as a token of my appreciation, you will receive my starter novel template for free, which is a great tool that evolves with collective insight of writers like you. So thank you so much for your guys' feedback as I've worked to improve these great tools for you. And of course, you can join today by visiting ojevanson.com/links. And I think I'll drop that in the chat for you guys again real quick so you have it. Boom. I think I got it here. There you go. You can access that. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. I get these up as quick as I can. I got up Mondays. Was it just yesterday? I'll try to get up this one either today or tomorrow at the latest. Of course, we have a full webinar library available at learningtolearn.com that goes way beyond everything I currently have on YouTube as well, if you want to check that out as well. We have a full knowledge base, user forum, user manuals, blog video tutorials, just so many incredible tools, guys. Just pick one and get started. Okay, so what's next, gang? Well, I hope you will all join me for our last session this Friday, May 23rd at 2024 at 11 a.m. Central, 5 p.m. UK for my webinar, Maximizing Your Creativity in Scrivener, Crafting a Writing Studio that Inspires You. And this is really kind of I in some ways I consider it a bonus, but because you don't really have to do this to use Scrivener effectively. But I just love spending some time and really making Scrivener my own. Make it the kind of writing studio. And when I jump into it, I'm like, yes, I'm excited to get writing. I've removed the distractions and things I don't need. I've added things and styles and colors and preferences to do it, to have it look. So I'm excited to dive in and get to work. So I'll show you how to customize Scrivener's appearance to your studio for your particular writing style. We're going to look at what tools are available. And this one, it is a massive undertaking. And I'm looking at probably splitting this presentation into two. I was just looking at it last week. I'm like, there's so much here. I'm probably going to have to cut this in half. So we'll probably do like part one this week, and then I'll probably do another one, probably not next month, but the month after, we'll finish up with part two and see if we can really cover everything Scrivener has to offer, because there is a lot. Okay. Now, before I conclude the webinar, I want to make sure I delivered on my promise. And so do you guys feel like you've learned how to utilize Scrivener's Inspector and its associated tools? Do you feel more confident in that? And not only in in document-specific notes and bookmarks and snapshots and all that stuff? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys in chat. Of course, if there are any areas that still need further clarification or explanation, now is the time to ask those questions. Drop them in the Q&A as we transition into that section. Let me just look in the chat here. G says, I look forward to watching Friday's recording. Great, excellent. Jessica says, thank you. I learned a lot. Can't wait to try out some of these tools. Thanks, Oliver. See you Friday. Perfect. Looks like some people are heading out. That's cool. This was very helpful and insightful. Look forward to Friday. Elizabeth, thank you. The notes and metadata were my biggest questions. Excellent. Glad I could help out with that. I hope, those of you who are new here, you're not feeling too overwhelmed. Like I said, we have all those great free resources to get you started wherever you're at in the process. So it sounds like we did well. I got you guys the stuff you needed. So now let's open the floor to any questions you have. I'm happy to address any concerns or confusion regarding Scrivener and its features, and as well as provide tips and advice for using it effectively in your writing. Don't be shy, ask away. And maybe while you guys are dropping those in, I'm going to answer that first question I received yesterday in email. How do I properly save my projects? Give me 1 second while I share the right screen. And we'll get the ball rolling here. So, okay, we kind of already showed how I saved this project, where to save it, but let's just go ahead and create a new project and just see where it takes us. We'll just do a regular fiction project. We're going to double click it. Now, where do I save it? That's a great question. And it's going to largely depend on your use case. Are you going to be using it primarily on this computer and this computer alone? Should I save it in the cloud? Should I use Dropbox or iCloud or Google Drive or, yada, 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 all those different options? Where should I save it? Now, first off, I did a session on this not long ago, so you may want to check that out, effortlessly syncing Scrivener projects on the go, right? But there's basically two places you want to save your projects. Either directly on your computer, ideally in a folder that's called Scrivener Projects that you can find it and easily locate it. I recommend your documents folder because that's where we typically keep most documents anyway, right? Great place to save it, so long as it's in a folder titled Scrivener or Scrivener Project, so you can easily find those. Now, the disadvantage of doing it directly on your computer is it's only available on your computer, and if, heaven forbid, anything should happen to that computer, it's possible you could be, opening up a little bit of risk to data loss there. Now, not fully likely, but it can happen. I've had 2 computers now, Macs, by the way, that have just like totally succumbed on me and died. And I've also had a couple PCs as well. So no computer is immune to this, and that's why I keep my projects in Dropbox, apps, Scrivener, okay? And that's because that's also where it's saved, so I can access it on my iPad or on my iPhone. That's the directory we keep it in. Apps, Dropbox, apps, Scrivener, and there's all my projects, right? So that's the best place to save them. Now, one thing you may notice is that none of these files are archived or zipped. There's no like .scrivener.zip here. And that's because a zipped file indicates that your project is being backed up. And what that may mean, if you're getting an error, it's like warning project is not in the recommended save location, that means you're typically keeping your backups and your live projects in the same place. And you don't want that to happen because, for one, it could actually end up overwriting your project or corrupting it. Don't want that. So if you have zipped files and .script files in the same place, move them to different folders, okay? Now, by default, that shouldn't happen, but it can happen if you go into like File. Oops, let's go to, did I not create it? Let's go here. We went to File, Backup, right? Backup to, and I backed it up to the same place that I was working, right? Ideally, you don't want that. You want to have your backups to a specific backup folder. Now, if we go here to my backup folder here, Settings, Scrivener Settings, Backup, you can see this is where my backup location is. I can choose that, and I can actually select a specific folder. So I keep all my backups in Dropbox too. I go to Dropbox, and there it is. I have my PC backups, my Mac Studio, my MacBook Pro backups, and that's where I keep them, right there, okay? That's where I back up all my stuff. In this case, I'm working on my Mac Studio right now, so that's the folder I want to have selected. That's the one I want to have open. So my recommendation to you, Lucy, if you have any zip files, first, make sure that you have set up your backup folder in the right place, okay? In a place that's separate from your projects. It doesn't necessarily have to be in its own folder. As long as it's just, it doesn't have to necessarily be a specific folder. You can have it do the default, whatever that may be. Just make sure it's different from where your live projects are being saved. You see, this is not the same place as my apps Scrivener folder where all my live projects are, okay? Hopefully that makes sense, but if not, give me some follow-up questions and I'll get you answered there. Yeah, but maybe one more thing I'll do real quick to answer that, to just kind of go over that in depth, just demonstrate it. So if I went here to apps, Scrivener, let's say I just compressed this guy here real quick. I zipped it up, and I opened that up here. Oh, we didn't do it. I think I can't just do it like that. I think I actually have to back it up. Let's move that to trash. Let's go to, where are you? File, recent projects, webinar notes. Let's go to File, Backup, just so you can see this what would happen. And let's assume I actually did it here in my Scrivener project here, and I clicked Save, right? Not what we want to do, okay? But just to show you what will happen here. Let's close that up. Oh, it's going to take a minute to do that. You can see it's backing up to that specific place. Now, if I came here, it didn't even compress it. Why? Normally it compresses it by default. Let's see. Nope, it didn't do it. Give me a second, guys. Why is it not doing that? Normally it gives me a warning here, and for some reason I'm having a hard time recreating this problem. Let's go ahead and delete those. Yeah. But But I think I'm going to skip it because I can't quite figure out how to recreate the problem. Normally, it just pops and says project not in recommended save location, but for whatever reason, it's not working. But that's what will happen. A little pop-up will say project not in recommended save location, and you'll be like, okay, all I have to do is separate my live project here from my backup, and I'll be good. Whew. Excellent, and I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. It won't be your last. I'm glad to hear that. That's perfect. Kim says, thank you for this. Made me realize I've been sleeping on Scrivener's capabilities. Looking forward to learn more. Lucy says, thank you. I will try what you showed. Perfect. Okay, glad I could help out. So let me look in the Q&A. I know there were probably some questions in the chat and see if there was anything I missed here. Zoom, where are you? Nope, wrong button. Let's see if I can pull up Q&A. Where are you, Q&A? Huh. More. Q&A. There we go. Okay, looks like all the questions in the Q&A have been asked or answered if there were any. Let me look through the chat and see if I missed anything here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. So, did anyone catch how he created the master list of characters that he can select? Are you referring to... Okay, let's see. Referring to the list of characters and the keywords? Yes, I think that's... Okay, yep. So, series... Yes. Cheryl says, so helpful, especially for a series. Worth the effort to set up for sure. Yep, I agree. Scrolling down. Looks like a lot of these were answered. Ahmed is asking, hi, is there a way to highlight, underline, etc. within the PDF file while stored in Scrivener or a draft folder? Ahmed, that's a great question. You can't actually edit a PDF directly in Scrivener. So for example, if I came to Scrivener here and I had my notes here, let's just open it up and let's pull in a PDF just so I can show you what I'm talking about. But there is kind of a way around that. If I pulled in a PDF here, just pull that there and drop it into my research folder. Okay, give that a second. There it goes. Pull that in there, right? So I can't actually edit anything here. I can copy text, but I can't actually edit anything. But what I could do is I could open this in an external editor like Preview, and there I can edit it. I can make changes to it, right? Like so, and I could save that and then close it out. And then when I come back here, I can click this little arrow button on the right here, and there, I can change it. So if you have a PDF editor that works outside of Scrivener, you could open it up in that PDF editor, make changes to it, and those changes will appear in Scrivener. And I do that a lot. That's not the only tool I use that for. If I'm editing an Excel document, for example, I can't edit an Excel document in Scrivener. I can store it in there, but I can open it in Excel, and it all still remains in my project. And I find that very useful. I can have a lot of different formats here and keep them organized all in Scrivener and still open it up in that app where I would actually make the changes. Okay, so it's almost like opening up an external window is how I see it. So it's a good question. Okay, we talked about that one. We got that. I noticed a lot of people had to jump out of here, and that's fine. As a reminder, remember we've got the replay. So if that's you, then you can replay that. So just as I noticed that if you are printing directly from Scrivener, the comments will appear embedded right in the text in a grayed out color. Is there a way of printing them without? Is there a way to print without them appearing? Okay, that's a good question. So let's look at that. Let's look at that. If I add in a comment here, see, I don't remember that like that, and I printed that out, what would happen? Okay, there is the comment right there, right? So if I wanted to remove that, I'm guessing I probably go to File, Page Setup, Scrivener. Let's see, text, page numbers, file dates, text notes. If there's an option to remove those, it would be in here somewhere, I believe. No. I'm not seeing an easy way to remove those just because that's a good question. Page numbers, file dates, name, titles. This is for the text itself. File name and date. Content text. It should be right here if there was an option. Maybe let's try remove annotations. I'm going to click OK and see if that does it. Yes, that does it. Okay, so it doesn't say remove comments. It says remove annotations. So if you go, let me show that again. If you don't want comments to show when you're printing out directly like this from the main editor, okay, you can go to Scrivener, or rather File, Page Setup, open up this little Scrivener menu here. Make sure you have text selected, and then make sure you check the box Remove Annotations, and that'll remove those for you. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question there, Jessica. I'll click OK again to bring those back. Print, and sure enough, there they are. That's kind of hard to see. Let's open it up so we can see it. Just put it on our desktop here. So this is with it turned on. If I were to print it out, okay, it has the snapshot comment there, right? And with it turned off, let's go to File, Page Setup, Scrivener, Remove Annotations, click OK. Command Print again. Do a PDF again. Questions 2. And voila, there's questions 2. And sure enough, that comment was removed. Okay, so that's how we would do that. Real quick, I'm going to go and change that back because typically I do want those to be included. Okay, there we go. Like so. Now, it's worth noting that's kind of a rough and ready way to print a document. Okay, you can get a better view or a better printing option if you use the compile menu. Okay, just be aware of that. Okay, no, best way to remember this shortcut. Paul's asking, how do you get my latest template? Send me an email, Paul, and I can send you a copy of the latest template. It's I update it directly on my website, so I can send you the link and you can download the latest one. I haven't made a change recently, so if you've downloaded it within the last month or so, I don't think I have an update for you quite yet. But yes, that's where you would you can send me an email and I will get that directly to you. Maybe I can even find it here real quick. Yeah, just send me an email. I don't have that link handy. So Marjorie, you wanted to hear more. You wanted to hear more about footnotes. Maybe I'll go over that real quick since she's already headed out, but just to give her something to look at here. Footnotes here, pretty basic. You got a note, and there it is, right? One thing I would like to say about footnotes that I probably didn't cover is actually to come here, and we can adjust how the footnotes appear when we compile out. We can remove them altogether. We can export inspector footnotes as innotes, and inspector footnotes, as you might guess, is these guys right here in the inspector. If you're doing inline footnotes, a little bit different. Inline means they appear in the text, inline, right? And they will appear as endnotes instead of at the bottom of each page. So by default, footnotes will just appear at the bottom of each page. If you want them at the end of a chapter or section, this is where we would come and make that change. And if you're only using inspector footnotes, then you only need to worry about that one. If you're using inline footnotes, then you want to check both or one or the other, depending on which you're using. And to add inline footnotes, we'll just search that up. Inline footnotes. There it is, right there. It is in Insert Inline Footnote, and you can just click that there. And that'll add it in. Line footnotes, like so. Okay, there we go. That's that. That's footnotes in a nutshell. Pretty quick and easy though. Got it. Can you compare features with the automatically saved version? Can you use the compare feature? Yes, you can. That's a good question, Jessica. The automatically saved versions, I can compare. There you go. See, I can compare them. If I delete something, right, I can, it'll compare it there, okay? Yep, I'm going to leave those there. Actually, going to delete these guys. Boom, like so. So those are my actual notes that I'll need. Okay. Looks good. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Any other question I missed here at the bottom? Okay, can you show your links or contact information again? Yeah, so if you're talking about this, here is those links there for you there, Kathy. And my contact information here, I can share that again real quick for you as we're wrapping up here as well. Share. So here is the contact information. So I think we're ready to wrap it up here. Actually, it looks like we have one more question, but I'm going to go ahead and show this to you guys again. So this is our Scrivener./Mac, Scrivener/Win, Scrivener/Mobile, and scapulaliteraturelatte.com. This is where you can access our free technical support team. They're happy to answer and address any questions you may have. If you'd like to reach out to me directly for a Scrivener or webinar-related question, maybe you're not sure if Scrivener can do this or that, or what might be the use case for this for a specific specific thing you're trying to do, reach out to me. I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as you can. If it's a technical issue, you're struggling with something isn't working just right, I recommend you reach out to one of those other 4 emails because they'll be able to get you a lot quicker. Okay. Okay. I see there's one more question. I think this will be my last question. Christopher is asking, does Scrivener have invisibles like they do in Word? And yes, it does. I'm going to quickly close this out and share my other screen and show you. This will be the last question for today. And how do we do that? So if you select text, you can see there are the invisibles right there, at least a couple of them, right? We can kind of see this, but how do I see those all the time? So it's really easy to do. Go to Help, search Show Invisibles. And there it is under View, Text Editing, Show Invisibles. Hit Enter, and boom, you can see we even get our spaces. Those are all there, available to you right there. Quick and easy, Christopher. So hopefully that helps you out, gets you showing those. So that's what, if you like to see those things, you can turn that on or off. If you want to hide them again, go to Hide Invisibles. Once again, there it is. View, Text Editing. It does change from Show to Hide right in the contextual menu there. So just make sure you are searching for the right thing when you're searching. Okay, we'll hit Enter again, and boom, those are gone. Just only shows the returns when we select the text. They're like so. You're most welcome, Christopher. Excellent, excellent. So that wraps up our session today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me quickly pull that up again real quick. Thank you all so much for attending and participating in this session. I hope you found it informative and useful, enhancing your writing skills. If you do have any additional questions after the event, please use the email addresses listed there in my presentation to get you the help you need. Now, I thank you so much, Kitty. Thank you, Bill. You guys are amazing. I'm always excited to meet with you guys and be with you here in these sessions. It brings me so much joy to help out another writer. So right on, okay? And I will catch you all next time, okay?